Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Sarabhyai Namaha
Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
Om Sarabhyai Namaha
Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
Om Sarabhyai Namaha
Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
Mukam karoti vacharam pagum langayate girim Yat kripat maham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam Yat kripat maham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam Hare Krishna. No asana. Asana. For you. Yeah? Oh, okay, that's it. It is nice to see many devotees here this morning, Sunday morning, for our Bhagavatam class, which on Sundays is a reading from Hare Krishna, which is a reading from the book speaking about Varnasrama. Some devotees may not know that actually there is a standing GBC resolution. Means it was passed many years ago, at least 10 years ago, and it is still there, still standing, to the effect that not just on Sunday we should hear about Varnasrama, but every day during Bhagavatam class. That is a resolution. Those who are giving Bhagavatam class should take 10 minutes during the Bhagavatam class to say something about Varnasrama. That doesn't happen very often, actually. Therefore, it is a good practice that at least once a week, similar to what we do in many temples, we select one day to hear about Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. We do that every Ekadasi here at SSKBK. And every Saturday we hear something from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So it's a good practice also to hear from this particular book, which is which was meant to be the first of a series. It means there were supposed to be more books written on the topic. In any event, so far it has not happened, but so we are going systematically through different sections of this compilation, and let's see. Yes, last week we had started section number 14, which is entitled "Every Man Should Have Some Land." In the Vedic culture, it is not that everyone owned land, but the vast majority of people were very much connected with the land. And in our modern day society, we have forgotten this principle, and having forgotten this principle, we have put ourselves in a very precarious condition. Precarious means irregular, dangerous position. When we are connected with the land, then, as explained so often by Srila Prabhupada, we become localized, number one. We don't have to go all over the place to make a livelihood. Our livelihood, actually, that is the ordained system, the natural system. We are meant to live off the land. So we don't have to travel as we do in modern day society, which is to set up what we now have, modern day transportation system. It is very complicated, very complex, very artificial, very expensive, and very dangerous as well. And by being close to the land, we are, because traditionally people, actually that was the main occupation, agriculture. Agriculture is meant, was the main occupation, is meant to be the main occupation for the vast majority of people. So, so this was from, let's see, this was a discussion in June of 1974 in Geneva, Srila Prabhupada with different devotees on this topic. So we'll just, mostly it's Prabhupada explaining here. And we have seen even in our childhood that poor men, the labor class servant, they came from village in the town. We were residents of town, Calcutta. The servant class, they would come. Everywhere, not only in Calcutta, everywhere. The villagers would come and a small salary. Even in your young days, we were paying salaries to the servants, 12 rupees, 14 rupees, without any food. Of course, Prabhupada mentions that traditionally, village people would sometimes, not all the time, would sometimes come to the city just to make a little money because they wanted to maybe build a bigger house, or they had some financial need. And still they would save at least 10 to 12 rupees out of that. And this money the servant would send to his wife at home. And as soon as there is 200 rupees, he'll purchase a piece of land. The idea was to get some land. And in this way, when he has got sufficient land for producing food for the whole family, then he would no more come to the city for working. So it was a temporary arrangement. In other words, it was part of the culture that one should live in that way. And we know how that culture has actually been altered or changed. And it is a cause of so many problems. That means as soon as one has a land sufficient to produce, he is safe. He is safe because every day we need something to eat. And if we don't have money, then, and if we don't have land, we're in problem. His food problem, that is the real problem, is solved. So people are not being trained up in America. I have seen. Now the farmers, the father is working on the farm and the sons, they do not come. Same thing in India. They live in the city. This is the tendency all over the world. Actually, that tendency is there because it is being promoted. It is part of a master plan. That master plan actually has been thought and designed over the years, since the last 30, 40 years actually, by various leaders all over the world. How to get people out of the village and bring them to this city. They are not producing food grains, or they are producing food grains which are of poor quality. Therefore there is scarcity. Especially in a country like India, where the population is very big and there is no land available, there must be scarcity of food. Especially the Britishers. They have divided India, Pakistan and Hindustan. So all the food grains are there on the Pakistan side. And in the Hindustan side, all the industries are there. As Prabhupada would say, cannot eat nuts and bolts. So they are fighting. They have no industrial facilities, Pakistan, and they have no agricultural facilities. All policies. The Britishers wanted that you have taken your independence, all right, you'll suffer all the time, fighting between both of you. So anyway, the whole world situation is degrading. It is a very important point. Of course, we know that spiritually there is less interest by the general mass of people, mainly due to propaganda for sense gratification, which is very prominent in this age of Kali. So, although our movement, Krishna consciousness movement, is meant to give spiritual knowledge and spiritual training to people, it is not only on that level that we are meant to help individuals or society. We are also meant to help individuals and society by demonstrating and showing what is the proper way to live according to what is mentioned in the Shastra. So it means that this is actually an important dimension. It's part of our responsibility as a society to actually demonstrate, and demonstrate, that means by example. We have to show ourselves what is being discussed here. The whole world situation is degrading, and that what is that degradation? That people are not producing their own food. This is the problem, real problem, Prabhupada is telling. This is a real problem. Because every day, if you don't have food, you're in trouble. Kshetra, kshetragya, this example is given. As every man must possess a piece of land. Therefore, kshetra, kshetragya. So as we till our land and get foodstuffs according to our labor, according to our intelligence. Food grains I can produce once, twice, thrice. Food grains means paddy or other grains. Generally they work 2 times, 3 months. 3 months. That's the minimum for one crop. Those who are very lazy, they work only 3 months. But even working for 3 months, they can acquire foodstuffs for the whole year. And that I have seen. So similarly, as we get some land and work for ourselves, similarly this body is also like that land. This is knowledge. Krishna says, idam sariram konteya kshetram. Krishna does not say that, Arjuna, you are this body. That is the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Dehinosminyata dehe. Within the body, the owner of the body is there. This is the beginning of knowledge. So this knowledge is lacking. Nobody knows that I am within this body. Everyone is thinking, I am this body. So this is a very good example that idam sariram kshetram. He has given, God has given you a piece of land, this body. Now you work, you make your future with this body. So Prabhupada is giving this analysis that kshetra, this body is kshetra. The land also kshetra. So in the same way that we maintain this body, we have to maintain this body, keep it healthy, so that we can practice spiritual life. Similarly, land. Land is what helps to maintain this body. So this is knowledge, that I've got this body as field. As one gets the land for cultivating his food grains according to his labor, according to his choice, similarly, we have got this field of activity. Now we can make our future good or bad according to our choice. now we are making our future bad by following this modern, modernized way of living, which is, the philosophy of eat, drink, and be merry. When we take some time to study these Vedic literatures, just like we have seen in the pages of the Bhagavatam, the whole ideology or philosophy of Varnasrama comes up again and again and again. It has to, because it's part of our existence. It's an integral part of our being here in the material world. How to work things out, how to properly utilize our body, and how to properly utilize the natural resources. They are described actually by Grandfather Bhismadeva as the natural gifts of nature. Of course, being a spirit soul is also, Krishna is giving us, is creating us. That's a gift. But Bhismadeva speaks about 3 natural gifts. This is in the Mahabharata, which are meant to be properly utilized. When properly utilized, they can help to meet all of our needs and necessities of life. This is being neglected in modern day society, and therefore we have so many serious problems. What are those 3 gifts of nature? The first one he describes as Mother Cow. And the second one, which is intimately connected with cow, is another mother, Mother Nature, land. And the third gift of nature, which is also connected with the first 2, is cultivation of knowledge, understanding. And it's amazing how, even for us as devotees, we have at best a theoretical understanding of this. We don't have real practical, deep realization about this. Srila Prabhupada was very conscious and aware of how modern day society, and Prabhupada would say this is quite recent. This has been going on only in the last 200 years. This major deviation from a more simple and natural way of living. Because when we live locally, when we cultivate knowledge means especially spiritual knowledge, but knowledge also means basic knowledge in terms of how we should interact and live in harmony with nature, live in harmony with one another. What happens is that just like a village by nature, very different than in a city, in a village, as some of you who may be coming from a village know, in a village, everyone knows one another. Maybe not now, because things are changing even in villages. But traditionally, and in most villages that are not so, let's say, modernized or urbanized, because now villages are becoming urbanized or becoming like cities. But in villages, people do things together. people share, if there's a wild animal attacking the village, it's everyone's concern. And therefore, it makes it easier for people to interact with one another. There's so many advantages of living in this kind of localized manner. Understanding and following the natural arrangement that is meant to be there. And it's a major challenge, of course. In the world today, we have, because of not having followed these principles, we have practically destroyed the natural resources in the world. We have destroyed practically ourselves by breaking the natural relationships that are meant to be there between individuals. And we have all of these very complicated problems amongst younger people, amongst older people. I was surprised last year, the year before, I was in Sweden, and one devotee mentioned that, I'm not sure if it's Sweden or in England, that the government appointed their first, a special minister, a minister of loneliness, because so many people. No, that's really not a joke. It's like, you have a minister of education, you have a minister of finance. They actually establish a minister of loneliness, because in a place like Sweden, over 70% of the people, and not only older people, especially in older people, nobody cares for them. They find people staying in their apartment for the last 1 month. Nobody has visited them. Nobody calls them, because everyone's busy on their cell phone or whatever. So when we deviate from the natural way of living, the natural way of doing things, the natural way of interacting with one another, then we bring in all of these very serious and complicated problems that ultimately destroy us. They destroy us at all levels, physically, emotionally, in terms of our relationships, and of course spiritually. So this means that actually it is not only important for us as devotees and as a spiritual movement to not only be limited to being a spiritual movement. Prabhupada would say we're not simply a spiritual movement or a religious movement. We are, of course. Basic teachings are from Shastra, but we are also an educational movement. We are a social movement. We are a cultural movement. So these are important aspects that all of us need to understand more clearly. I'll just finish this section here. So Prabhupada continues here. Just like the land and the proprietor of land. The proprietor of the land knows that this is my land. It is not I land. So people are taking this that I am this body. This is ignorance. If one knows I am not this body, I am the proprietor of this body, I'll have to work with this body for my future. Then that is knowledge. Etad yuveti kshetragya, knower, one who knows. So we have to know this body. That's also part of knowledge. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita what is knowledge. Knowledge means knowing both spirit and matter. Knowing matter and spirit, the origin of both and their relationship between one another. So modern day people who are Gnostic, atheists, they only know matter. And of course even that they don't know very well. So it is dangerous, not healthy, to just know matter. It creates an imbalance. Also, it creates an imbalance if we simply know about spirit and don't know how to look after this body or how to look after nature, isn't it? So this is, Prabhupada is basically making the point that it is our responsibility. Fell down now. To cultivate. This is also cultivation of knowledge. This is also cultivation of knowledge, how to properly utilize the natural resources given to us, given to mankind, and when we learn to properly utilize this body to begin with, just like we know, this modern day culture is encouraging people from a very young age to engage in all kinds of what we consider as sinful activities. Prabhupada was giving the example. I just heard that for the first time. I knew about it, but I heard one devotee was giving a lecture, I forget now, mentioning that he had heard directly from Srila Prabhupada that if somebody from the age of 16 to 21, if one remains actual celibate, if one actually practices brahmacharya life without passing semen, then that person, his ability to advance spiritually is tremendously augmented, and also one's physical health is much better as well. This is unknown in modern day society, and that is one of the reasons why in the Vedic culture there is this planned segregation between men and women, isn't it? It's not that women are rejected. I mean, the problem is not only for men, the problem is there also for women. activities of sense gratification, especially in the matter of sex life, which actually are a source of tremendous problems in society, and of course for individuals as well. So in other words, there's a plan, there's a system, there's a way that is nicely explained in the Shastra, which is very logical, very practical. And if we know this and apply it, then it makes for a better situation. It makes for a better situation both materially as well as spiritually. So anyway, the topic was the importance of land, importance of knowing how to properly utilize. Any comments or questions on this? Yes?
Comment/question.
Huh?
Comment/question.
Comments/question. Okay, yeah.
The way Srila Prabhupada was explaining, even now in India people go to cities, mostly nowadays they go to US to earn some money and come back and invest back again here. Most of the devotees do the same thing, and a dilemma question comes. I hear this question many times, that whether I should invest in 1,000 square feet apartment in Mayapur, so a couple of acres outside somewhere in the village.
Yeah. You're making the point that as it has been the trend for many years that people from India have been going to the West, making some money, coming back to India to invest. And our own devotees seem to be doing something similar. And the question is how to invest whatever I may be making in the West, either investing in 1,000 square feet in Mayapur or Vrindavan, or 1 or 2 acres of land. I think more people and more devotees are, especially since March this year, since this pandemic, definitely people are more thoughtful about some of these subject matters. I mean, especially regarding land. But still, it's amazing how, even though the situation, I'm sure you're all familiar with what they call a wake-up call. This is a wake-up call, means something happens that is meant to help us become more awake, or more conscious, more aware. Just like when a member of our family suddenly passes away, it's meant to make us reflect that, what happened to him could have happened to me, and what happened to him, even though it didn't happen to me, will happen to me one day. So, so therefore, we need to hear from our acharyas. We need to hear from our shastra, and we need to hear in such a way that we can act on what we are hearing, because that is meant for our ultimate benefit, of course, which is to minimize our interaction, minimize our we could say, contact our activities on the bodily platform and give more attention and time for spiritual activities, but at the same time not neglecting also the material level. So we will close for now. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Samasta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Gaur Pimanandi.
Holiness Bhakti Raghava Swami Maharaj ki Jai.
Is there, yeah.